la kushoni langa peshe yakwa lwandle zakubuyi komo la kushoni langa ngohamba ngikufuna kuya yonke ndawo ngohamba ngikufuna I wonder what happened to my granddaughter, said my grandmother. I was only 5 years old, sleeping in my bed, and I could hear her talking from far. I could hear her singing from a deep sleep. I heard her singing the song that said in her every time she looked at a case that she has never opened for many, many months. The case that belonged to my aunt, Unomatamsang. She took each and every picture, opened it, and saw each and every picture. She sobbed slowly and slowly and slowly, singing the song, and then she touched each and every piece of cloth, dress, t-shirt. I don't know what you can think of. She smelled it, held it closer to her hands. And I could hear her and my mother arguing. And my mother said, "Please, Mama, please, I'm begging you. Don't take Nono with her, with you, please." And my grandmother stood and said, "This might be beneficiary for her one day." And the girl they were talking about, it was me. The next thing, my grandmother shook me and woken me up. No, wake up. I opened up my eyes only to realize that it was still dark outside. She had prepared a big bowl filled with warm water and a cloth and some soap, and there she had put my beautiful Xhosa traditional clothes and my beads for me to wear. With joy, I woke up, though I didn't want to wake up, and I said, "Grandma," like any other small child who doesn't want to wake up in the morning. But I had no choice but to wake up. And then when I looked at those clothes, I was filled with joy and excitement because beads did something inside of me. And that traditional clothes did something inside of me. What did they do? I had no idea. She quickly bathed me, dressed me up, and put on my beautiful beads. And there we were, leaving the house, still in the early hours of the morning. It was still dark. I could not even see the skies. I could not even see the sun. I could not even see the road where we were walking, but I could see the stars shining up in the sky. We began to walk and walk and walk and walk. We climbed up and down on the mountains of Eastern Cape, going to Eteling. And as we are approaching her sister's house, my aunt's home, Unomatamsang, who had disappeared for 3 months and nobody knew where she was, we could hear the drum beats, boom, 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 boom. And the traditional leaders were busy dancing and chanting and singing. We came closer and closer and closer. And the closer we came, and the song became stronger, and the drum beat became stronger. Boom, 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 boom. I could hear my heart pounding up and down, pounding up and down, and I thought, what is happening? I stood for a while, dragging my grandmother's dress. Makhulu, Makhulu, I'm scared. That's what I said. Come on, let us move now, Kelly. Come on now, we have to get there. You have to do this. You see, my child, this will be beneficiary for you one day. What she meant, I did not know. But I followed. And as I came closer, I started hearing the song. I did not understand the words. I listened closer as she came. I could hear the song. And as she pulled closer, she began to open her mouth and sang. Cholinkomo, cholinkomo, oh yeah, yeah, yo, ha, oh yeah, yeah, oh, dinengaga ngaga zomsiwam, cholinkomo, cholinkomo, oh yeah, yeah, yo, ha, oh yeah, yeah, oh, dinengaga ngaga zomsiwam, cholinkomo, cholinkomo, yeah, yeah, yo, ha, oh yeah, oh, dinengaga ngaga zomsiwam. Those were the traditional leaders. They had went into a trance. They had made a cycle in the midst of the yard in the village. It was filled with a lot of people dressed up in the white, yellow, green, blue, red traditional attires. Of course, of my tribe. isiXhosa. And in the midst of those traditional leaders, there was the well-known one, uMaNdlovu. She had gone into a trance. As we came closer and joined the group, she had fallen on the ground. And she started shaking and shaking and shaking and shaking as if she was having fits. I was so scared, I dragged my grandmother's dress again and said, Makhulu, Makhulu, please, I'm begging you, take me back to my mother. And the song was becoming stronger. Cholinkomo, cholinkomo, oh yeah, yeah, yo, ha, oh yeah, yeah, ndinengaga ngaga zomsiwam, cholinkomo, cholinkomo, oh yeah, yeah, yo, ha, oh yeah, yeah, ndinengaga ngaga zomsiwam. Makhulu, keep quiet, she said. uMaNdlovu, she stood up out of a trance, turned her hand and pointed inside the kraal. There was the biggest, beautiful cow I've ever seen. The breast was filled with milk, and she said, this is the cow she drank from 3 days before she disappeared. I became shocked. I could not understand, but people began to ululate. Are they excited? I thought. They came together. The cow was driven out of the kraal. The cow was put in the front. And people were behind the cow. And the traditional leaders led the cow to the river. And the song continued. Cholinkomo, cholinkomo, oh yeah, yeah, yo, ha, oh yeah, yeah, oh, ha, ndinengaga ngaga zomsiwam, cholinkomo, cholinkomo, oh yeah, yeah, yo, ha, oh yeah, yeah, oh, ha, ndinengaga ngaga zomsiwam. Imani, said uMaNdlovu, the spiritual leader. The traditional leader, she said, I want to warn all of you here that you do not dare cry. If you do, you will never, ever see uNomathamsanqa again. We came closer to the river. The traditional leaders were in the front. They continued with the song. They continued to sing harder and harder. It was becoming tenser and tenser. I had goosebumps. I was scared. I was excited. I did not know what to do. I looked around and I realized that everybody was singing and some were ululating. But then the song changed and slowed down a bit. And the sun had not come up yet. The first thing was the traditional plate with a snuff on it, which is a traditional powder that we put on the floor before we can talk to the ancestors. Umandlovu picked it up, put in her mouth, chewed a bit, said something, and she spit. Then she took the powder, put it on a traditional mat, put it on top of the river, and it began to flow into the river. Slowly, it flowed, and my eyes were open a little bit. And I thought, am I watching a movie or something? And it floated and floated. And when it got to the middle of the river, it started twisting and turning and twisting and turning until it disappeared into the middle of the river. And next was the traditional tobacco. She took it again and took another traditional mat and placed it in again. It started floating and floating. And when it got to the middle, it twisted and turned and twisted and turned and twisted and turned until it disappeared in the middle of the river. And the third one, she took the traditional beer that we call umqombothi. It had been brewed so well that it had fermented and had some foam over it, and it was flowing on the floor. And she said, "Amagu," and she put it on top of the traditional mat. And again, my eyes grew bigger this time than they were. And again, it floated and floated and floated into the middle of the river, and it twisted and turned and twisted and turned and twisted and turned until it disappeared. And this time I thought, oh, holy, holy, whatever that this is, I am scared. I dragged my grandmother's dress once more and said, "Makulu, Makulu, am I next?" And she said, "Shh, don't say a word. Hush now, baby." I kept quiet. But as I observed their faces, as I observed their eyes, I realized that some of them had tiny, teensy tears. And I did not know what to do. And the next thing was the beautiful cow I've ever seen in my life. Umandlovu pointed the hand. Without a word, the cow followed as she led it with the hand into the river. And it walked so majestically, taking its time. And it entered into the river. And it walked and walked until the middle. And then it twisted and turned and twisted and turned and twisted and turned so majestically until it disappeared in the middle of the river. You see, this time, I was so excited. My ears were big like this. My eyes were open, and I thought, oh my God, am I watching a movie or what? I was very excited. But when I turned to look again, their eyes were filled with fear. But I could not understand why was I filled with excitement, yet mixed emotions. But something in me told me, this is part of me. And again, the song continued. Jolinkomo, Jolinkomo, oh yeah, yeah, yo, ha, oh yeah, yeah, oh ha, ndinenxaka nxaka zomzi wam, Jolinkomo, Jolinkomo, oh yeah, yeah, yo, ha, oh yeah, yeah, oh ha, ndinenxaka nxaka zomzi wam. Thola! Shut up, said Umandlovu. I was scared. I started shaking. I could not understand what was happening. I thought we were having fun. I thought this was wonderful. I thought this was amazing. Everybody kept quiet. And the sun rose, started shining. As it shone, a big wind came swifting. The next thing, the water started twisting and turning and twisting and turning and twisting and turning. Oh my God, what a goddess I saw. There was my aunt, Unomathamsanqa, dressed in the most beautiful Xhosa outfit I've ever laid my eyes on, wearing the most beautiful beads I've ever seen, looking beautiful, like she was kissed by a sun. And as the sun came out, it shone into her eyes, and her eyes were so bright and filled with life. But there was no smile on her face. She walked out majestically, but funny enough, her clothes were so dry, as if they had been to a dry cleaner. And again, I was confused. I was excited. I began to shake a bit, and I started hearing, traditional leaders, grandmothers, mothers, uncles, everybody started shouting and relating with joy and happiness. She had a piece of cloth that she carried on her shoulders. And she did not say a word. She just walked so majestically. I've never seen such a beauty in my life. And the ceremony continued. She went to her new heart. She sat there and she did not talk to anybody else. Food was brought, umboti was brought, and all the other delicacies that you can think of. We started celebrating with joy and excitement. And I pulled again my grandmother's dress. Grandma, Grandma, are the people under the river? Grandma, are the chickens there? Are there some cows there? Are there cars? Grandma, I want to go there. Hush, baby. Don't make the noise. And everybody else was stopped from meeting her. But when everybody else was not looking, I ran and I grabbed and I held her so tight. And I said, Auntie, I'm so happy to see you. She took the duk, hit me 3 times on each and every shoulder, and she laid the last one in the midst of my back. Without a word, I let her go. You see? She was the best traditional leader I've ever met in my life. She healed people. She could see things that nobody could see. She could hear things that nobody could hear. She was filled with love, joy, peace, and authority. A lot of people, for years and years, flocked to her heart for advice. They flocked to her heart for healing purposes. They flocked to her heart for many, many, many things. And whenever she would sense bad spirits, she would just look with her 2 eyes and turn her head without a word. And that person would just leave the room without a word. I had to write this story only 10 years ago. And when I needed the reference, she was no longer there. And you see, Today, I understand what my grandmother meant. I did not have to disappear for months. I did not have to go under the water and stay there for months. I did not have to drink some milk from the cow. But I have been given the gifts to heal with these hands, to hear with my ears, to see with my eyes, and to speak when I'm told to. That is the story. Thank you.